Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing South Park Christmas specials. And of course, the show originated with two separate animated Christmas shorts. The first one was The Spirit of Christmas, Jesus vs. Frosty. That was released in 1992. And the second was The Spirit of Christmas, Jesus vs. Santa, released in 1995. And now here we are all these years later, and South Park just finished up its 23rd season, and it's been renewed for 3 more seasons, so we're guaranteed through season 26. And Matt and Trey have said that they have no plans of ending the show until Comedy Central cancels it. So it's just really awesome to know that they still love making this show. And with that first animated short, I don't even remember when I first heard about it, but I don't even remember when I first saw it either, but years and years ago, though. And it's just funny revisiting it now because I didn't really remember much about it. And just the crude animation is just so hilarious. But it's just a really quick 4-minute short. And it's just so awesome to see just the already just Matt and Trey's style of humor, and seeing how it's evolved so much over the years and yet still somehow feels the same. Still that crassness, still that boldness, still that sharpness to it. I love Matt and Trey, my gosh. But with this animated short, they made it together when they were in college. That's how they met. So they created this short together. And it's funny, like, how they're singing Frosty the Snowman. It's funny that, for some reason in this, the character that we know as Cartman, in this, he's named Kenny. So when he's killed and they say, "Oh my god, you killed Kenny," when he's killed by Frosty. It's just so funny. And then there's the Stan and Kyle-like characters, but they don't have names in this special, in this little short. But you hear the voices, still, of course, Matt and Trey voicing the Kyle-esque and the Stan-esque characters respectively, and just already them parodying those classic Rankin and Bass films, those Christmas specials, and just Jesus killing Frosty after Frosty killed Kenny, quote unquote, and then he does kill the true Kenny that we come to know in the show, because that character with the hood, he kills him, the character in the parka, but he's nameless in this short. And then he kills a bunch of other kids too, but then when Jesus kills Frosty, and then Stan says, "Oh, you know what Christmas is about? Presents. Yeah, it's about presents." So then, a few years later, when they created Jesus vs. Santa, this was released in 1995. It's a 5-minute short. Just this animated Christmas card that got sent around, basically went viral, quote unquote, because before things went viral, long before the internet became a huge thing, before all that, if it were created today, it would have been viral on social media and things like that. But this is what led to the series of South Park. And obviously, since it's so simple, just the construction paper cutouts, and that inspired the style of the show. And even though the show is all on computers now, that's still what it's based on, those crude construction paper cutouts. And it took them months and months to create this 5-minute short. I think any South Park fan would agree, it still holds up. It's just a hilarious little short, again, just already capturing the essence of South Park, with the boys singing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," and then already just the insults with Cartman and Kyle. And then when Jesus gets into a fight with Santa, so then it's that war between the two of them and the meaning of Christmas, with the religious aspect and with the commercial aspect of it. It's just funny too, though, when the first mention of what would Brian Boitano do, because that was a song, of course, in South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. And then when they speak to Brian Boitano and then they learn the true meaning of Christmas, and Stan saying that Santa is keeping Jesus' spirit alive, but that without Jesus, Santa wouldn't exist. So then they become friends, Jesus and Santa. So cute, so wholesome. And then just, I haven't seen this in years, so it's still just made me burst out laughing when after that's all said and done, after all that craziness, then they walk away, and then Stan's just like, Phew, that sucked. That was hilarious to me. Oh my gosh. And then Kyle's saying, yeah, but dude, it was just so amazing. Just think of it. We actually spoke to the Brian Boitano. And then again with their realization, the true meaning of Christmas. Well, you know what? I learned something today. Christmas is still about one very important thing. Yeah, ham. No, not ham, you fat fuck. I mean, my God. But, again, presents. Oh, yeah, that's what it's about, presents. And then when Kyle says, if you're Jewish, you get 8 days of presents. And then Stan says, oh, wow, really? Count me. And then even Cartman, yeah, I'll be a Jew too. And they just start singing the dreidel song. And then when they walk off and little mice come along, or the rats come along to eat Kenny's corpse. So those specials, they're amazing. And it's no wonder that the show became a series and it's still successful. It's still going strong to this day. Such sharp, hilarious writing. And what's great too with these Christmas episodes of South Park. Actually, though, there was one this past season, though, the most recent episode of South Park, the season 23 finale, Christmas special. I won't be talking about that one today, but that was hilarious too. But I'm really just talking about the earlier Christmas episodes of South Park. So the season 1 Christmas episode, Mr. Hankey the Christmas Poo. And again, a lot of parodies with classic Christmas specials, even just with the opening with the kids singing We Wish You a Merry Christmas, and then with Stan giving the speech like Linus in A Charlie Brown Christmas, and the whole thing with eating snowflakes, which is also in A Charlie Brown Christmas. But it's just so funny in this when Cartman says, what the hell are you doing? Jewish people can't eat Christmas snow. We can too. No, I think it's against the law, dude. Officer Barbrady, is it illegal for Jewish people to eat Christmas snow? Yes. Poor Kyle. Then he sings that song that he's a lonely Jew on Christmas, that he just feels left out because he can't participate in the festivities with a Christmas tree and waiting up for Santa, and they just make him feel bad about it. And he talks about Mr. Hankey the Christmas Poo, which I have to say, this doesn't even faze me anymore, obviously, because with South Park, there's just been so many far more crass things in this show. This is hardly shocking. It's just a talking piece of poo. But, since I haven't watched this in years, I'm thinking to myself, rewatching this now, like, I'm like, that really is disgusting. But that's just part of the humor of South Park. And sadly, as we know, in last season, Mr. Hankey just written out of South Park with a trouble with a poo. That one was hilarious too, though. But Mr. Hankey's just so joyful and kind and just wanting to bring Christmas cheer. But then they think Kyle's crazy and they send him to the mental institution. And then when they just take him away and then Cartman just says, bye Kyle, happy Hanukkah. I just burst out laughing with that too. That just, oh my God, because I forgot about that line. It was just so hilarious. Like, poor Kyle. And also, this episode is the first time when Cartman sings Kyle's Mom's a Bitch, which then became a huge number in South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. And this one's also funny with that live-action Mr. Hankey commercial. It's so disturbing, though, too. And then at one point, the girl's like, I wish Daddy was still alive. So upsetting. Oh my God. But it's just funny, though, that this episode, just this one episode, captured what they did a few years ago for an entire season with PC culture. And they already did this with this first season Christmas episode, with everyone getting offended with everything. So then it's like, okay, lose the mistletoe, no Christmas tree, and then they are taking away everything for their Christmas play. So then when they see the play, it's just like this ridiculous thing. And the parents are like, what the hell is this? And then Father Maxie says, this is the most god-awful piece of crap I've ever seen. Like, oh my God. Because they're wanting to be PC and not offend anyone. So no Santa Claus, no Christmas tree, no commercialism. And then when Chef, which again, poor Chef, long gone, rest in peace. But when he tells the kids that Mr. Hankey's real, and they say, oh, well, I believe, they all believe Mr. Hankey, and then he comes back, and then he gives that great speech, and he says, come on, gang, don't fight. You people focus so hard on the things wrong with Christmas that you've forgotten what's so right about it. Don't you see? This is the one time of year we're supposed to forget all the bad stuff, to stop worrying and being sad about the state of the world, and for just one day say, the heck with it. Let's sing and dance and bake cookies. Then they start clapping, and then Stan just says, dude, this is pretty fucked up right here. And I watched this on Hulu and it was uncensored, so that was just jarring to me because I've never seen these earlier episodes uncensored, because even on the DVDs, they're still censored, in fact. So that was just, took me by surprise. But then Kyle is released from the mental institution. They're all singing. It's just very sweet. They all come together. And then it's great, too, at the end, though, when they're saying, oh, it feels like something's missing. And then just the end pops up. And then Kenny, woohoo! So the one and only time back then in those earlier episodes that he survived. He didn't die in the episodes because it was throughout the episode. Like, oh, Kenny unplugged those extension cords. Careful, they're very dangerous. Oh, can you take down the star, but watch out for the shark. Like, he could have almost died, but he survived for the Christmas episodes. That was great. And then the little tag at the end of this with Jesus singing happy birthday to himself. It was just so precious, too. And then moving on to season 2, Merry Christmas, Charlie Manson, which again has homages to different Christmas specials, such as It's a Wonderful Life or How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And this one is wild because we meet Cartman's family, and I think they're only in this one episode, so we never really see them again or hear about them again, but it's just funny, this family of Cartmans, how they're all exactly like Cartman, all saying the same stuff. Like, no, Jimmy, this is my pot pie. Like Cartman with his, no, Mr. Kitty, this is my pot pie. Or, respect my authority. Catchphrases for Cartman that he really doesn't say anymore. And of course his, screw you guys, I'm going home. But it's just so funny. They just go to Nebraska, and then just Charles Manson shows up with Cartman's Uncle Howard that just bust out of jail. And it's funny, though, when they're going to Nebraska, and then Cartman's like, oh, I call shotgun, and then he opens the door, and Kenny's sitting there, and he's trying to get Kenny out of the front seat, and he's like, Kenny, look, there's an elephant parade, and then nothing, and it's like, look, Kenny, $1, go get it, and he just throws the dollar, and then that's what gets Kenny to come out. He's like, oh, poor piece of crap. And then there actually is an elephant parade passing by. So bizarre. And I also liked, too, when Kyle woke up screaming. He's like, oh, I dreamed we were in a house of Cartmans. And then Stan's like, dude, that's actually happening. We are in a house filled with Cartmans. And he's like, ah! And then when Stan pinches Cartman, he's like, oh, I just want to make sure we weren't dreaming. Then Kyle punches him. He's like, I want to make sure, too. Kenny punches him, too, making Cartman a literal punching bag. See, like, you would almost feel bad for Cartman. Like, I almost felt bad for him, but this is Eric Cartman, and, you know, how the kind of character he evolved into over the years, after, of course, the iconic episode, Scott Tenorman Must Die. But these early seasons, it's just annoying, and, like, with his cousin Elvin, and his cousin Elvin's just a mini Cartman. It's like, kick ass, his little fudgesicle. And then when his grandma is like, oh, you have to watch your cousin Elvin for a while, he's like, okay, give me $10. It's like, oh my god. And then when they go to the mall and they're excited to see Mr. Hankey, but then it's a fake Mr. Hankey, so of course, instead of fake Santa Claus, things like that. And then the whole thing at the end when Charlie Manson's saying, like, what he's learned, it's actually just similar message pretty much to what Mr. Hankey had said, that Christmas is about being happy, just forgetting all the bad stuff, just coming together as a family with the people you love, just spending time with one another, being happy. And then I would say the season 3 Christmas episode, Mr. Hankey Christmas Classics, that one's my least favorite because it doesn't have a narrative or anything. It's just a collection of Christmas songs. Cartman singing Oh Holy Night, that's so funny too, though he doesn't remember the lyrics. Or Kyle's family with the dreidel song. Or Christmas Time in Hell, I didn't even remember that. Or Ding Dong K with Mr. Mackey. And then Jesus and Santa singing like religious versus Santa themed songs. And then when Santa's getting all annoyed, well, there's like 300 Jesus Christmas songs and only 4 fucking Santa ones. And then Mr. Hankey in the toilet singing Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And then the boys show up and everyone's singing. And Kenny gets killed by a chandelier and they just keep singing. And then the season 4 Christmas episode, A Very Crappy Christmas, an extremely meta episode, and I love meta humor, I always say that, but I absolutely do get a kick out of it, with Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman deciding to create an animated Christmas short to bring back the spirit of Christmas. And of course, it's the actual animated short, The Spirit of Christmas, Jesus versus Santa, which led to the series. So it's like them setting up the shots, doing the little mouths, like, oh, we wish you a merry, and seeing how long it takes. So extremely meta, I just love that. I mean, yeah, just to think about that for a second, the time and patience that's got to take, like, oh my god, it's like, oh, so, like, you spend hours and hours and only have, like, say, 30 seconds, oh my gosh. But that's dedication, and again, utmost respect for that. And also this episode, there's a bit of Butters, which Butters is a much more prominent character nowadays, but when he makes the little, like, oh, here's a cutout Jesus and a cutout Santa for you, it's like, oh, great. It's like, oh, I also made a cutout me in case you need me in your Christmas shorts. Like, nah, that's okay. And this episode also introduces us to Mr. Hankey's family, with his wife, Autumn, and his children, Cornwallis, Amber, and Simon. And they vaguely remind me of, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but they vaguely remind me of the Chipmunks, Alvin and the Chipmunks. I guess probably just because of the pitched up voices and them just singing. But then this one also has the song Circle of Pooh, and I wonder if even Matt and Trey even remember that, because they've made over 300 episodes of this show, so it's just funny. Like, I wonder if they even revisit old episodes of South Park. Something tells me no, but I just wonder that. Maybe they do once in a while when they have to refer to something, so then when they make the movie and then it inspires everyone to go out to the shops and buy presents, and then the mayor says, kids, that was great, how'd you like to make 100 more of those? And then Stan says, are you kidding? We'd rather stab ourselves in the head. And they just walk off, and Kenny again getting eaten by rats because when he just got run over, and then they're saying, oh, it's okay, we'll just have his character die in the film. And it was cute too, them like recording their voices, and then when Cartman walked out and then Stan just was impersonating Cartman. See, a cartoon making a cartoon, nothing gets more meta than that. And then season 6, Red Sleigh Down, and it's just so funny, Kyle's cousin Kyle, who we haven't seen him in years either. He would be so funny if he just randomly showed up at some point again. But him as Cartman's naughty and nice accountant, and then he's saying, well, you owe Santa over 300 presents. And then he's saying, well, I brushed my teeth one time. It's like, that's not really naughty or nice, it's just brushing your teeth. And he's saying, well, there's got to be something I can do. It's like, well, even if you cure cancer and AIDS by next week, you'll still owe Santa 2 presents. Like, he's just so terrible. He has to do the nicest thing he can imagine. So then, of course, he just decides to bring Christmas to Iraq. And they take the Poo-Choo train. I forgot about that, too. The Poo-Choo train song. Poo-Choo train. Like, that stupid little... No, that great little song. And again, just that bond between Santa and Jesus. Jesus sticking up for Santa. And then when poor Jesus gets gunned down. And then when Santa, when he says, so now we're going to, on every December 25th, we're going to remember a great man, Jesus. Like, oh my goodness. And just the little B story of Jimmy singing 12 Days of Christmas. And he hasn't been featured much recently either, now that I think about it. He has in the past, but not this past season. But he's a great character. And this one's also great because then, with this season, in season 6, they had killed off Kenny in season 5. Kenny Dies, which is the first episode I ever saw of South Park. But then they had kept Kenny dead for all of season 6. And he just shows up again at the end of this episode. He's like, oh, hey guys, what's going on? It's like, oh, hey, Kenny. Like, he just showed up and they're just like, oh, hey, what's up? And it's just so funny, though, that with Cartman, of course, being the selfish kid he is, and Kyle always seeing right through his bullshit, and then the whole reason, though, is because he just wants that robotic dog, and he's saying, oh, it's not just a toy, it's a toy you can starve. Like, he's just so sadistic. And I just remember, though, watching this episode with my cousins, and we all just loved, well, we found it hilarious, with poor Santa, and just, not Santa's balls. Oh my god. And this one, too, when Jesus dies, and then Stan again says, dude, this is pretty fucked up right here. Indeed it is. But so is the way of South Park. And then in season 7, Christmas in Canada. And of course it's a Wizard of Oz parody. When they go to Canada, they gotta go on follow the only road in Canada to talk to the Canadian Prime Minister. And this one, I got a little emotional. It's just so sweet. Kyle's bond with his brother when Ike's birth parents come to take him back to Canada. Ike is so adorable. I wonder how many voice actors Ike has had over the years, because it's always little kids voicing him since he's supposed to be about 3 or so. But he's hilarious, Ike. He's had some great episodes. And I just love that side of Kyle, that protective older brother. And this one, too, we see the Shitty Walk guy. It's like, oh, hello, Shitty Walk. It's like, oh, we're looking for City Airlines. Oh, okay, one moment. Hello, Shitty Airlines. Oh, my God. So unbelievably racist. But then, of course, years later, when they did that episode with the Shitty Walk guy, and it was a parody of Psycho, and how it was actually a man, this was his split personality impersonating a Chinese man. It's just so like, oh my goodness, Matt and Trey, the things they think of. But when Kyle's haggling with him, it's like, okay, it's gonna cost you $3,000. It's like, okay, how about $50? Like, oh my God, okay, $60, $62, God, $62 to fly to Canada. And then that part when it pans out and the boys are all sleeping, and then the Shitty Walk guy is sleeping too, and then he just jumps out of the plane with the plane crashing. They somehow all survive. And then all this stuff making fun of Canada. My God, Matt Trey making fun of Canada. No Terrence and Phillip in this one, though. And I totally forgot about that character, Scott. So then when just Scott showed up, and then the one guy's like, oh, that's Scott. He's a dick. That just made me laugh, too. I was like, oh my God, Scott, he's a dick. I remember that guy. Like, why is he a dick? He's just, like, terrible. And then Cartman, of course, wants to kick Kyle's ass. He's saying, like, oh, if we're not back in time for Christmas, we're going to throw down Kyle. And then Stan's just concerned about having a Christmas adventure. And then Kenny's like, well, he doesn't want to go because he'll die. And then when they go to the Prime Minister, and it's so funny when they're like, oh, yeah, you're going the wrong way. They were going the wrong way on the only road. And then when they talk to the Prime Minister, and they're saying, oh, well, he's not here. And then Kyle's like, well, I'm not going to get my brother back. And Stan's saying, I'm not going to go on a Christmas adventure. And Cartman's saying, I'm not going to get any Christmas presents. And Kenny says something about, and I'm not going to last a week without dying, or something like that, he says. And then with the Canadian Prime Minister, it turns out to be Saddam Hussein. And he blasts Kenny and kills him. Poor Kenny. And then that makes everything null and void. So then Ike gets to go back home to his family. And it's just so sweet, that little hug. Kyle and Ike, so adorable. And then when Cartman's alarm goes off on his watch, he's like, it's Christmas and I'm in Canada. That's it, Kyle, we're going to throw down. And then Kyle just barely slaps him, and then Cartman just bursts out shrieking, and like he's hurt so bad, like, oh my God. And that mouth with him like screaming, that's the first time apparently with that mouth that they had to create a whole new mouth just for that, for him screaming. because that's the first time with that really big like screaming mouth with Cartman. And then they have that whole big parade, and Stan just says, oh well, maybe we'll have a Christmas adventure next year. And also real quick, though, about that episode, I love that song, There's No Canada, like French Canada, it's the best Canada in the land. The other Canada is a bullshit Canada. If you lived here for a day, you'd understand. Like, oh my goodness. With that guy, it's like, oh, and the Prime Minister is taking our wine. And it's like, oh, you gotta answer the phone. And like, Kyle reluctantly, hello. I love that. Oh goodness. You just gotta roll with the bullshit sometimes just to get through things in this show. But at least it all worked out in the end. And then season 8, Woodland Critter Christmas. This episode is so insane, to say the least. But again, rewatching it now, I haven't seen it in years, but rewatching it, it's just not the same as watching it for the first time. Just the shock of it all. It's still hilarious though, but my goodness, it's just insane. But this one's extra crazy and like extra impressive to me because this was in 2004, which was when Team America World Police was released. That puppet movie that Matt and Trey made. And they were so burned out having done the movie and doing South Park, and that they were so out of ideas, and that this was just an idea they came up with just really, because what happens more often than not when they're just kind of coming up with things at the 11th hour, like just really having no ideas, and then just all of a sudden, well, what if we did this? So then that's where this came out of. So it's just wild. And it's just the Christmas story with the rhyming, and we see these critters, and they have amazing names. Still just makes me laugh. Just so stupid, but it's just so funny. Barry the bear, Chickadee the chickadee, Beavery the beaver, Deary the deer. Like, fantastic names. Oh my goodness. And they seem so wholesome, of course, but then when it turns, we find out Porcupiney is carrying the son of the Antichrist, that they worship the Antichrist, and it's just so wild. Things just go from 0 to 100, just it gets so insane. And Stan, just a reluctant hero in this Christmas tale, when he kills the mountain lion because trying to save the critters, but then when he finds out that the critters are evil and that they worship the devil, and you see the little cubs, and it's just so sad. And then when Kyle shows up and they're going to use him as the host to host their Antichrist, and then when it's not revealed until like almost toward the end, that's just a great reveal too, though, with Kyle saying, "Oh, stop it, Cartman," with him with the Antichrist, and then they just want to hear what happened. So it's funny that that's just Cartman's story about the story of Stan, the little boy in the red poofball hat, with these satanic Christmas critters. They haven't shown up, I believe they haven't shown up since Imagination Land. I haven't seen that in years. I'll have to revisit that trilogy because that's epic. I love that trilogy, but that's for another time. And it's just so wild. Of course, the imagination of Cartman, my God. But then that stupid song too, like, Christmas time is once a year. And then it's just hilarious when it's playing over the mountain cubs when they're at the abortion clinic. Like, oh my God, goodness gracious. So fucking bizarre. And they perform the abortion to get the Antichrist out of Kyle. Oh my God. Santa. Thank goodness for Santa saving the day, killing all those satanic critters and the Antichrist. And then everything's all well, and then it's just so sweet too. It's like if you have a special wish this year, and then Santa brings back the mountain lion moms, and the cubs reunite with their moms. So sweet, brings her back to life. And then Stan has a Merry Christmas, and then they all had a Merry Christmas, except for Kyle, who died of AIDS 2 weeks later. God damn it, Cartman. Of course, that's Cartman for you. So I love South Park, and it's just it's long-running show, still going, over 300 episodes, so that's why I like revisiting it every now and then. So at some point I may do like just my overall top favorite episodes of this show, but for now, I mean, with this show you could do, like, I always think of how I could do different themes. I could just do an episode, for instance, of Kyle versus Cartman episodes, so many fantastic ones. Or, I mean, in more recent years, so many Randy episodes, and Towley too, for that matter. I love Towley. And also, I've thought about doing an episode about the Goth Kids. I fucking love the Goth Kids. Oh my God, they are incredible. So, we'll see. But I will definitely revisit South Park again at some point. And until then, howdy ho! And with that, that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Storytelling Saga, as well as on Twitter at Storytell Saga. You can also send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by leaving me a message in the contact section of storytellingsaga.com or by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week is the last episode of the year, end of the decade for that matter. So I will be sharing a new short story to close out the year. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.